Welcome to Fun with Annuities with your host, me, Stan the Annuity Man, America's annuity agent. Can annuities be fun? Can contractual guarantees be fun? Absolutely they can. Find out the brutal facts about annuities with no sales pitches or high-pressure nonsense. Just the brutal and factual annuity truth, which is all you need to hear. Let's have some fun with annuities, and let's have that fun start right now. Welcome, everybody, to Fun with Annuities. My name is Stan, the Annuity Man, America's annuity agent, licensed in all 50 states. I'm so glad that you joined us today. We have a very special guest. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him, then we're going to jump right into some of the most interesting things that you don't know, which is the reason he's here. He's a good friend of mine. His name is Barry Dyke. He's written books. He's been published by every major publication. He's a financial planner, and I'm reading kind of from his site. So for the people on the Fun with Annuities YouTube podcast recording, I'm looking away from the camera. For all of our friends on, Spotify and all those platforms, it doesn't matter. I'm looking away. You can't see me anyway. But one of his books that really caught my attention a long time ago was called The Pirates of Manhattan. And it really kind of illuminates the corruption that you know about but didn't know the details in the United States financial system. He calls himself the economic warrior. He also has a podcast called The Economic Warrior that I would tell you to check out. And he's, like I said, he wrote The Pirates of Manhattan, but he's also written a book called Guaranteed Income, which is fantastic. So, I mean, I'm really, he does a little bit of everything. I called him a truthful, brutally factual financial journalist. But, oh, by the way, he's one of the best financial advisors in America. So he's been there, done that. He's forgotten more than most people will ever know, and that's a fact. So I'm just going to kind of let him tell you a little bit, give his 30,000-foot elevator speech. Welcome to Fun with Annuities, Mr. Barry Dyke.
Stan the man, it's great to see you. Always good to see you, and we got to keep pushing back the frontiers of ignorance, don't we?
Oh, every time I talk to Barry, it's just he just tells me things that just kind of blow my mind, and I'm in the know. I feel like, but he's really in the. Barry, kind of tell people how you landed here. No one plans to be Barry Dyke, the author of Pirates of Manhattan, not Pirates of the Caribbean, but Pirates of Manhattan. How did this all start? And tell us a little bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis with clients.
Well, essentially, I'm a registered investment advisor. I do planning throughout the United States. I actually do planning outside the country as well. Mm-hmm. I'm doing financial planning and benefit consulting and that type of thing. Gee whiz, for 38 years now, something like that. And I've owned a pension consulting firm. I sold an insurance company in the 80s, and I owned a third-party administration firm. I set up my own RIA, and in 2001, I still have that roughly 20 years later. And the reason why I had been essentially, been involved in all angles of the financial service business, primarily savings plans and retirement plans, that type of thing. And the reason why I wrote the first book is I went through, if people go to barrymdike.com, they can get the books, by the way. But I had to reinvent myself, and I understood a lot of the financial products which are sold by Wall Street.
Yeah.
Do not work, will never work. But as you know, all the misinformation marches on and becomes, a daily part of our diet in Wall Street and people's savings plans. So so I wrote the first book, The Pirates of Manhattan. It took me roughly 7-8 years to research. But I came to understand that one of the best things that really works for people is life insurance and annuities, but no one was talking about it. And I'd been through a tough divorce and, such a financial argument on my own, and I had to reinvent myself. So I figured out to tell people some of the truth. And the thing is that, but what stumbling, I think it was a God shot, is that I stumbled into the fact that all your major banks are the hugest purchasers of life insurance and fixed annuities in the world. and I published the first book, Stan, in 2007. So now we're like 14 years later now.
That's right.
And we're still just in the dark as ever, Stan. You know, so
No, that's right. Barry and I have a competition of who's hated the most by the industry, and we're running a really like a 1-2 combo here because we do peel back the onion on facts, and he is brutally factual like myself, and that's the reason that that we get along so well, and that's the reason I wanted my listeners to know who he is, and I'll have all of his contact information on my site, where you can access it and sign up for his stuff as well. He is he's just a fantastic guy, but he's very, very smart, and he just doesn't accept the answers that are out there or the explanations that are given, which is why I love what he does. Now today, what we're going to do, and we're going to have Barry on a lot. Okay, so we're not going to try to get it all in on one show, but what we're going to talk about today are a couple things that are in the news recently. Let's start, Barry, with the one that I just read about that blew the top of my head off, and you can pronounce it better than I can.
Archegos?
Archegos?
Archegos, yeah. It's a Archegos. It's actually a Greek word, believe it or not, for God or the Savior, and it's kind of weird.
Of course, we're a family office. Why wouldn't you name it God of the Savior? My goodness.
Someone else doing God's work, essentially the losses, Stan, are incredible. They say the hole that is blown into Credit Suisse and to this guy, Bill Hang Wang, whatever it is, who ran this.
Who has been barred from the securities industry more than one time, right?
Yeah, I paid $44 million fine and
wrote a check
in 2012. Little just pocket change.
Wrote a check.
And he's up and running.
How do you want me to do that? You want me to get you the $44 million in a check, or you want a money order? I mean, these guys are liquid, man. I don't know if he's liquid now. Kind of explain in a very easy to understand way what happened, and I'll give a little bit of a premise. He ran what's called a family office, and family offices, and Barry can help me a little bit with this, they kind of fly under the radar screen from a regulation standpoint somehow, and they don't have to report things that they own or positions that they have or the margin stuff that's on the books. I think that's part of the problem, huh, Barry?
Yeah, it's always gets back to the debt, Stan. It's always too much debt, too much leverage, the same old stuff. Prior to 99, 2008, and all over again, Stan, as you know, it's worse now than it was in 2007 and 2008. It's worse than it was in 99 and 2000. So excessive leverage, okay? But, the two big banks, again, at this Archegos thing, which has just been bloated, and I think Credit Suisse is going to take a $3 billion hit.
That's with a B, y'all.
With a $3 billion hit.
Yeah.
And Nomura, the Japanese bank, the
right.
chief investment bank, they're taking a $2 billion hit. I guess JP Morgan estimated there's going to be a $10 billion hit overall. But all the prime brokers, the people who are supplying all this debt to Archegos, they said they had to liquidate positions of $20 billion, like essentially overnight. So, but I guess the aggregate loss is going to about $10 billion. And now the whole thing is that these are supposedly the savvy
the masters
wealth
of
managers.
The universe. That's who these.
The masters of the universe, or who want to manage your money. And so the irony of the whole thing is that so you get the usual suspects, usual banks involved in lending all the money to Archegos, and it blew up. And a guy, as you know how regulated you and I are. I'm an RIA and insurance guy. We put us under the microscope. I mean, if his application's wrong, everything goes to compliance. But this guy, since he flew under the radar, blew up a $20 billion position, and same old.
Well, and here's the interesting part about it is that if you're in the securities industry, if you're working for one of the big firms, I mean, the compliance is suffocating. The compliance is a little bit less when you go to the hedge funds, even though it's ramping up. But the compliance at the family office, and family office was set up for very, a few relationships with a couple of large wealthy families. That's what a family office was put on the planet. But what happened to the people that get in trouble and get dings on their record and can't work in the securities or hedge fund industry because of that? Now they're opening these family offices. I read an article the other day, Barry, that a lot of the talent from the hedge funds are being recruited to the family offices for this specific reason, which it will be, if me and you are running things, we're either shutting down family offices right now just to see what's happening, or at least regulating the heck out of them. We'll see what happens, but that's kind of the new wild, wild west, are these family offices, because, and maybe you know the details on this a little bit more than I do, but what I read about arch egos, which we can just use the word for arch, we could just use big egos. Okay. In the securities industry, you have to report, I think, on a quarterly basis, and I might be wrong on this, Barry, you can correct me. You have to report your holdings.
Yeah.
Okay. Family offices don't have to report their holdings, to my knowledge, and that's what caused all of this. Am I right about that?
Yeah, and family offices essentially got a pass on all regulation on the Graham-Leach-Bliley
Stop
Act.
for a second. What?
They get a pass. They get a pass. They were exempted remember when the Dodd-Frank went in 2012?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
They were supposed to regulate hedge funds and private equity.
Sure, absolutely.
And now they get a pass, and so that's like SA Capital. It was Stevie Cohen. You know what I mean?
Yep.
He shut down, and he ends up at $12-13 billion family office, and ends up buying the Yankees. So
isn't Cohen's running a family office now? Nothing against him. We don't know him, and I'm sure his wife makes a really nice peach cobbler. But what we're commenting on is the fact that people that kind of got in a little bit of trouble, allegedly, innocent until proven guilty, but they're moving to the family offices because it's the wild, wild west. Is that the true family office? Is that the true wild, wild west, Barry?
Yeah, but but again, it's the rarefied air, the top 1%, 1/10 of 1%, the people, the billionaires, okay, but there's been an amazing increase. I think it was the Journal or Financial Times. Financial Times probably has better reporting, but but I think the amount of assets in family assets surpasses hedge funds now.
So family offices have more money under management than hedge funds?
I believe so. I could get back to on that, but it's up there. It's really up there. So they're very significant exposure in the marketplace, and so that's
not being reported. So what you're telling me is the new hedge funds are family offices, and all of their holdings aren't reported.
Essentially,
that's fantastic. Doesn't that make you feel good? Because, Barry, what I want to do now is, okay, we've laid that foundation of the masters of the universe, the people that are just leveraged to the hilt. And, okay, how does that affect mom and pop and my listeners and your listeners? How does that affect the investor? Because they're getting blindsided. It's like running down on a kickoff on a football game and not seeing the guy just come from the left side and hit you and almost knock you out. Tell me how this is going to play. How does this play out for the investor?
For the typical mom and pop, he's at the end of the line. I mean, and you know this, Stan, and I know this, is that the typical person where you want to, like, we talk about retirement plans. The purpose of retirement plan is to generate retirement income. End of story. And what has happened is that because there's so much speculation, it's gone to overdrive, that the average investor doesn't have a clue of what's even going on. As a matter of fact, someone, actually, the assistant in my office sent me a tweet which Noam Chomsky put out this weekend, and he's. Let me see if I can find this. It's just because it's so good. I just want to say it. And I bet, by the way, if people go to barrymajamesdyke.com and you go to the Economic Warrior tab, I interviewed Noam. He actually likes my.
By the way, that's Barry. Looks like it sounds
BarryJamesDyke.com.
DYKE.com. BarryJamesDyke.
Then click on the Economic Warrior tab in the YouTube, and I actually interviewed Noam Chomsky. But this is what Noam Chomsky. It was his perfect quote for today, and he's written like 96 books or something like that. He said the general population doesn't know what's happening, and it doesn't even know it doesn't know. So in other words, the general public has no idea what's going on, and they don't even know that something's happening to them.
I have an analogy, Barry, that I always use with people. I'm like, I don't put the stock market down. People need money that need growth, et cetera. It just needs to be in proportion, allocated properly. But I tell people in today's markets, where over 85% of all trades are non-human, algorithmic, black box, high velocity trades, it's like surfing beside a cruise ship. You're going to catch a wave, sometime, but eventually you're going to get sucked under the boat. And we're back to 2008, Barry, where people have forgotten, what happened back in the day. Remember all those people back then? Because Barry and I have been in the business so long. We were there before computers. I mean, we were putting in
slide rules.
Yeah, we were putting in stock trades and then putting it through the vacuum tubes to the person at the front. I'm not kidding. That's where Barry and I come from. That's how old we are. But what's happening right now, I think, is the next downturn, Barry, and agree or disagree with me on this one. It'll be more violent because it's going to be computers. There won't be emotions. There's not traders. It's not human. It's computers against computers. It's algorithms against algorithms. By the way, you don't want to watch that. That's not pretty. Tell me your thought, and we're not being gloom and doomers, obviously, but tell me about the next hiccup that you see on the horizon.
Well, luckily, Stan, I've talked to a lot of people around the country and some outside of the country, and some really a lot of smart people a lot smarter than me. And virtually 99.9% believe there's going to be a correction, okay? And it's almost going to be biblical proportions. We just don't know when it will be. No. But if you look at the leverage and just the but the unaccountability, Stan, is incredible too. So it's frightening. So the whole thing is, if you're really too big to fail, you'll be protected, but the retail investor will not be. It'll be kind of like if you're in a movie theater and then someone yells fire, and then one of the exit doors closed, and that's what's going to happen. That's what you and I was around at 87. I started happening. You couldn't even get anyone on the phone.
I was in
99, 2000,
and
no, and 2007, 2008.
Been there.
And so now these situations are much, much worse. And the leverage and the debt, it's always about the debt. And but the problem is now, Stan, is that the retail investor who has his savings in IE and 401ks, that type of thing, has absolutely no control. Over 50% of the funds now are index funds. So it's actually, they're all communist funds. So there's no stewardship, if you will, at all.
Right.
And the whole thing is, and if it collapses, it collapses. And it's just, and I'm not against, we manage money here, but
sure. But you're a risk manager. You manage risk.
They need to have seat belts around their money, and they need to have guardrails around their money, and they need to protect their income, which is the purpose of retirement plan. But we're gotten so far away from it.
I know.
I don't know how this is all happening.
It's great, and I tell people all the time. Obviously, I'm in one lane, which is fixed annuities, and I tell people you need your income floor. If you have your income floor in place contractually, then you'll be a better investor. I think we both can agree upon that. But I think another thing that's interesting about the current times that we're in, and I always tell people this, most advisors that are in the game today aren't like Barry and I and old, okay? I always tell people, I have cowboy boots older than most advisors. And most of those guys have never really seen a real down market. Back in the day when I was first, with Dean Witter, I mean, it tells you how old I am. I mean, moves that happen in a day now happen, moves that happen in a year now happen in a day. And people always say, well, but don't we have, I talk about, when the next hiccup's going to be kind of violent, don't we have these triggers to shut it down? Yeah, but when you shut it down and pause it, all it does is just backload the orders that are coming in, right? So I don't, what's your advice overall? And I know we can't be real specific on here, and if you want to talk with Barry, you certainly can contact him. What's your overall thoughts on just markets and risk and what people should be aware of and looking out for?
When people, for particularly approaching retirement, they should look at their retirement plan as a source of retirement income, first and foremost. Forget all this grand speculation. The only one who makes money on this stuff is the asset managers, the banks. people can read. I've written 3 books about it. I've sold them in 23 countries, so they can read about that. So, but the whole thing, the most important thing is really to consider having income streams for life, because I have clients now, Stan, who, believe it or not, they're in their 30s, 40s. Now they're in their 80s. Okay,
Right.
I've had them so long where they have what is called cognitive dissonance.
Sure.
In other words, some people are pretty wealthy and they're very, very sharp. They could pick stocks, all that type of
Right.
thing. But now they just like, I can't do this anymore. And so, actually, the Department of Labor actually just came out a study about this. I think it was funded by Fidelity, and I can, if anyone wants to know about it, I can pull up. But essentially, so what happens as people age, they want to enjoy their money. They want to see their kids or their grandkids. They want to travel. They don't want to watch
It's lifestyle.
this market.
Chapter 2 is lifestyle. I tell people that all the time, and I totally agree with you. I think that we're back into a raging bull market where everyone thinks it's going to go straight up, and then we have stuff like GameStop happen, and they read about the guy, the ex-volleyball coach that made $20 million. They didn't read the backstory to that, but it all sounds good and it all sounds wonderful. And I always tell people this, Barry, that when and this is no offense to anybody who's been a waiter or waitress, because I certainly was, but when I hear them talking about trading, I know we're at the top. Okay.
That was who was in, was it during the Carnegie, whatever, when he was getting advice from his shoe shine boy, whatever.
Right. It's time to sell.
So we're there again, okay, and it's funny. There's a bunch of there's actually a bunch of movies and books written other people's money,
Sure.
and this is the whole thing. It's all gambling with other people's money, and this is, sure, as you know, Stan, this is about gambling with other people's money.
Yep. It surely is. I know a lot of people, what we're getting ready to go into next, which a lot of people just shake their heads because all they've seen are ads on TV or ads on the internet or ads in the newspaper that say, I hate all annuities, of which I say, well, if you hate all annuities, you got to hate Social Security. And if you hate all annuities, then you got to hate CDs because there's an annuity product that's a CD. People say annuities, they think it's just one product. Annuity, saying you hate all annuities, like saying you hate all restaurants. It's just stupid. I hate all shoes. I mean, it's just dumb. You're falling for it. But what I'm leading into, and what I want Barry to talk about, are the billions of dollars that major corporations place in life insurance and annuities. Can you peel back that onion, Mr. Dyke?
Yes, I'm happy to. And actually, I will be redoing an update of my book, Guaranteed Income. They can go to barrymdykes.com. Buy it off my website. They're selling over $100 on the Amazon, but so you're better off going to the website.
Hey, if you sign them, it'll sell for $200.
So this is the whole thing, kind of anyone who knows my research knows the major banks buy more life insurance and fixed annuities than anybody. Bank of America, Wells Fargo. Okay.
I don't think people know that, Barry. I really do not believe people know that, because you just called me on one the other day where someone put $2 billion with somebody.
Yes, it was J.C. Penney. J.C. Penney just bought a $2.6 billion annuity for the retirement obligations of. Actually, I can tell you exactly, Stan, if you just bear.
While he's looking that up, here's the thing, people. We talk about, when me and you talk about one-on-one, when you schedule called me, I always talk about transferring risk. You're transferring the risk to the annuity company, life insurance companies issue annuities to guarantee either lifetime income or principal protection in most cases. You're transferring the risk. So what is, in this specific instance that Barry's talking about, J.C. Penney, they're transferring the risk, which is what you need to do or think about doing, to the life insurance and annuity company to back up the claims. Now go from there, Barry.
Okay, so this is the whole thing. You and I were talking about this the other day, but so I track this pretty accurately. I go through the 10Ks and stuff like that.
Sure.
And I have a good friend of mine, an actuary, who's helped me. But I've been tracking this since I wrote last book. But so this last week, J.C. Penney, they've made 2 enormous annuity purchases to ensure the pension benefits for 43,900 employees and their dependents for a total aggregate value of $7.8 billion. Okay, now this is a fact, and I testify in court, not anybody. Okay, but would you see this in the New York Times or the Journal or even the Financial Times or
Fox Business,
Bloomberg.
CNBC. No, no, you're not.
And then we can go on. I can tell people how they, FedEx did it. FedEx is, let's see, looking here. FedEx did a major one. I mean, everyone uses FedEx. Is oh yeah, 6 billion for 41,000 employees, or Rolls Royce for 33,000
They're
employees.
transferring risk, and we're not. Barry and I we're not Homer saying everybody needs an annuity. No, we know for a fact that if a lot of people don't need an annuity, but a lot of people do. And a lot of people need to transfer risk, and a lot of people in a pensionless world need to create their own pensions and forget about return on investment because, as I always say, there's no ROI until you die. Up until that point, it's a true transfer of risk. Nobody ever says, you know what, I wonder what the ROI is on Social Security. Why? Because it's a lifetime income stream. That's all you care about. And that's the same thing with lifetime income annuities. There's not just one. So it just depends on your specific situation and the customization of that. So what I want people to walk away with is the people that are saying I hate all annuities, they probably have, big, huge annuities for their company. So just filter in the information. One thing Barry Dyke is not is fake news. Okay. That's not Barry. I mean, Barry's going to shoot it straight and dig into the numbers that are crazy. And I wanted to also talk about current interest rates. Now, at the time of this taping, we're at perceived low interest rates. But if you look at the 10-year Treasury compared against all other global 10-year Treasury equivalents, we're still pretty high. No, Jimmy Carter's, we don't have those interest rates. But in my opinion, Barry, I want you to comment on this. When you print all the money we have, and we must have all kinds of toner up there to print as much as we can print. When you print money like this, there's no incentive for the government to raise interest rates on themselves. It'd be like me and you, Barry, saying, you know what, just because I want to, I'm going to raise my mortgage interest rate. There's no incentive for us to do that. There's no incentive for the government to raise interest rates. And I understand all the macro and microeconomics. Barry and I took those courses and made A's, okay? We get it. But tell me, in the blue water we're in, and when I say blue water, listeners and viewers, we've not seen this before. There is no tick data looking back in the future and saying, well, the last time we printed 7 trillion, this is what happened. Last time we had 63 trillion leverage, this is what happened. Barry, give me your interest rate thoughts, even though none of us know where interest rates are going to go. But boy, I want to hear what you got to say.
Well, the big thing is that luckily I have some good actuary friends of mine. Everyone thinks you can get a lot of money in the market, and Stan, you and I know that's much of hot air. Okay, so
sure,
because everything generally returns to the mean. And 2 actuarial firms, one Piscatica Research up by here in Portston, New Hampshire, another one out Cliffwater Associates out in Marina Del Rey. They actually looked at 126 of the large major pension plans. Okay. And what they found, this is really, really frightening, is and there were separate studies, but what they found is that the 30-year returns, 20-year returns on investments within pension plans was roughly mirrored 30-year Treasury bills. So in other words, all this fancy shenanigans and trading and private equity and hedge funds and distressed debt and all this stuff. Essentially, the major pension plans could have got the same return just by throwing their money into 30-year treasuries,
which is historically since we've been around, kind of that 3 to 5% range. Obviously, been in the recent memory, right?
Yeah,
or lower. But I think that's an interesting point because I have people call me, and I'm sure you do too, and they'll say something to the following: I just want a reasonable rate of return, Stan, the annuity man, America's annuity agent, something like 7 to 9% annually. And I go, you know what? You find me the person that gets you 7 to 9% annually, year after year after year, and I will show you a statue of themselves right beside the bull on Wall Street. I mean, but don't you run into that, the level of expectations of return, and especially in a bull market like this, they're out of whack, don't you think?
Oh yeah, it's total misinformation. But anyhow, these 2 actuarial firms came up essentially. The pension plans projected roughly 7 to 7.5% to remain buoyant.
Okay.
But what they really got was essentially about 5.6, which were like the 30-year treasury rate. So
Right.
my point is that no one, and now, so when you see what 30-year treasuries are now, what are they? I don't know, are they 2.3, right?
Yeah, at the time of this taping, yeah, they're low.
So
They're just
I hate to say it, that if and these guys have, we got large numbers behind it. We're talking 4 trillion in assets. We're not talking about teeny little pools. We're
right.
talking about huge pools, and this is what they got in return. So my point is, if massive, you're in the state of Florida, so if a massive pension plan like Florida, which is one of the biggest, or CalPERS, which is in California.
Mm-hmm.
Or New York, or whatever, if they can't get these rates of returns, okay, with all their assets and all their masters of the universe, how is a little retail investor going to get it?
You're throwing darts and you're hoping. And as I tell people all the time, if you can go ahead and throw darts and hope all you want, just have the income guarantee in place. Okay. Tell me your thoughts about the archaic 4% rule. And for the listeners and viewers out there, what the 4% rule is you have your investments, right? You have your investments all in stocks. And Mr. Jones and Mrs. Jones, we're going to just peel off the gains, 4% of the gains every year, and then we can just keep investing. That dog will not hunt, as they say in the South, anymore, but that dog is being taken for the walk with clients every single day. What's your opinion on the 4% rule, Mr. Dyke?
It's awful. It's awful, because if you really want to look at the 4% rule, the Dutch, they run the best pensions in the world, Stan, and they run at their assumed rate of return is 3.5%. So this whole 4%.
You're talking about rational. That's rational, right?
So yeah, there's so much misinformation. I guess there's other shorter words I could say what I really think about it, but we just don't know. I mean, and so this 4%, I don't know how did that come about. It's been around for like decades, hasn't it?
It's been around so long. It's been around as long as I've been in the business. I've been in the business, a long time, decades, multiple decades. So it's crazy.
Yeah, so there's so much misinformation about in the financial world, things like 4% withdrawal rate. Like, who came up with that? Or things like dollar cost averaging, which is just mental. I don't know. It's just.
How about the Monte Carlo system? How about the Monte Carlo? That's been around. And if people know what that is, that's not let's go down to Monte Carlo and play the slots or whatever, and hang out with the rich people. Monte Carlo is a system that's used in the retirement planning world it's been decades to kind of project where things are going to go. That's been around a long time, Barry. I mean, a long time.
Yeah, and it's really misinformation. I know there's something, if you hear something long enough over and over again, a lie turns to the truth. There's something in psychology or whatever.
George Costanza from Seinfeld says, if you believe it's the truth, then it's not a lie. Which explains a lot of the indexed annuity salespeople out there. They believe it. There's a market upside with no downside, market participation with no. And I always tell people, listen, if there was such a product, the Fed would just buy that. Let's put on our thinking caps. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I had to.
Speaking of which, but the funny thing which I stumbled into was that the Federal Reserve itself had 75% of its own 401k of 4.5 billion in fixed annuities. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Hello.
So this is the whole thing. Is that and it's like I'm doing some executives they're retiring right now, and people it's a very large company. I can't remember. I can't disclose obviously, but I know the HR guy who's head of the retirement plan. Very, very bright guy, very smart guy. And I said, I'll just say his name is Cliff. I said, Cliff, why don't you guys, because we have these executive retirement plans. I said, Cliff, why don't you just make your life easier? Buy a 10-year SPIA. Oh, can't do that.
Nah, we don't want to lock our money up. Holy crap.
Oh yeah, I don't want the liability. But if you leave $1 million in the market, it's so goofy.
It is. And people always ask me all the time, well, what if, Yeah, this is my client. I have a mythical client called Chester, and Chester always goes, "What happens if New York Life goes out of business?" And my answer to him is this: "Hey, Chester, it'll be me and you in the grocery store fighting for the white bread, the cheap white loaf bread, because at that point in time, if New York Life goes out of business, it's game over. It's anarchy. I mean,
it's Mad Max time.
It's Mad Max." And so when we talk about transferring risk, you're transferring risk to companies to back up a guarantee. In the lifetime income world, obviously you have to choose carriers that, are strong, solvent. You need to look at all of that. But I think it's ironic that the behind the scenes, with no one knowing, the large corporations are transferring risk, whereas then the machine is telling the public, don't transfer risk, take risk, shoulder risk. I don't care if you're 70, put it all in the market. And markets are going to go up forever, right, Barry?
That's what they say. But there's no better example though than the New York Times, the old gray lady, and this is I got this from the 10K.
Yeah.
I've never heard him say anything nice about life insurance anyway, okay, or annuities in any way. They bought, was it 460 million in group annuities to transfer their pension risk. The BBC offloaded their risk. CBS, 800 million for their pension risk. So these are major media institutions, and they're actually doing this, but they're not saying anything about this because they're advertisers.
Yeah, it's from the interest rate standpoint, and we got to circle back because we digressed a little bit. And I don't want you to predict interest rate movements, whatever, but comment on the fact of the corner that the government has painted themselves into. Give some brutal facts about that, because no one knows where interest rates are going. But where are they at right now? What pickle are they in?
Well, we're not Europe yet.
That's a good T-shirt. I'm gonna have a T-shirt. We're not Europe. Yet.
We have negative interest rate, where they're actually charging you money to hold on to your money.
Yeah.
As you know, Stan, is that anytime they raise interest rates, cost of service the debt goes way up. So it's kind of paying a that's why I read the Bible every morning, because I don't know what's going to happen. Because this is something out of the Book of Revelation. But
you just started there. You start right there.
I have to, because when you look at it, it doesn't make sense.
Oh man, that's awesome. No, it's true. It's true. None of this makes sense. And I think, one of the things that I love about what Barry does is he gives us all this information that people aren't aware of, and he's dug into. He just told you that to write the Pirates of Manhattan, no, it's not Pirates of the Caribbean, it's Pirates of Manhattan. It took him 8 years to research. And oh, by the way, they're not just giving that information away. He's got to dig in. I mean, he's got to go to work to get that. I mean, all of his books are great, but that one there is the most unique financial book I've ever read, and I recommend it to people just because it'll be one of those that you read it and go, what the heck? What? And it's all documented, and it's not Barry just riffing. It's Barry digging in with facts. So, I mean, I encourage you to put him on like your list of, okay, I need to get on his list. I need to check him out long term. He's that guy, because I have no clue. In fact, what are you working on now? What's the bee in your bonnet at this point in time?
Well, I've been working on the book on private equity, but I have to kind of be releasing guaranteed income, doing like a 2.0, because
Sure.
Because the insanity was just going on, absolute unequivocal insanity, rapacious greed, if you will, in the retirement market space, because of most of the people are in target date funds now. I think 80 cents in every dollar is going to a target date fund, which makes no sense at all.
None.
And, it's all fictitious, but now they've thrown the Department of Labor let in private equity into the target date fund. So essentially it's gotten worse instead of better. And so I'm essentially going to be doing the guaranteed income too, because it's needed even more now than ever, to essentially for people to de-risk this stuff.
Tell us about the hedge fund book. I didn't know about that one. Tell me about that one. That's the one I want to read. I want to
The
read the
private
guaranteed
equity one,
income too.
I've been working on that one for about 8, 9 years. Yeah, and that's, and so that's I've been working a lot, and I've gotten a lot of good support on it. It's more of a love of the truth than I don't know how I've ever made any money on it, but essentially the alternative managers stand the alts, or they call them alts. Okay,
Sure.
They're taking over this stuff, and and you look at the crap that's happened even with some of these banks in the past, a couple of months, whatever.
And they're all 25 to 30 years old. I mean, they're all young whippersnappers that just know a bull market. One thing Barry needs that he probably already has it. He needs full-time bodyguards. Because he's peeling back onions on big time things. We're talking about hedge funds and the Pirates of Manhattan peeled back onions, and I just I think it's refreshing. And I'm going to tell you this. I don't know anyone else who does this. I think you are the lone wolf, as they say in the West. The pioneers take all the arrows, right? I mean,
Yeah.
But I'm glad you're out there doing that, and this time has flown. I mean, and we didn't even get to half the list that I had. I'm just telling you. I mean, we could go forever, but I really appreciate you being there. Now, again, BarryJamesDyke.com. Go sign up on his site. He's fantastic. This isn't his last time here. Obviously, when he comes out with Guaranteed Income 2.0 and the hedge fund book, we definitely have it on. We'll have him on before then if something pops or if it gets weird. And definitely if we have a hiccup in the market, because there's no one else that I would want to explain it to me than him. But I really appreciate you being here. Any closing thoughts and words of wisdom, Barry?
Yeah. Do your own research, okay? And it's just and keep passing back the frontiers of ignorance. Because if your parents ever told you if something sounds too good to be true, generally it is the case. Okay?
And with annuities, it's the case every single time.
Yeah,
it really is. But
and the thing is and people are approaching retirement. To really think about what the purpose of a retirement plan is, to reduce retirement income. It's not to pass wealth on to the next generation. It's not to gamble with, but that's what, and also, look outside the country. The Germans are like the exact opposite of us, and the Germans think all these stocks and bonds and everything, they think it's all gambling and speculation, which it is, but, and then people just look at things like going on, things like SPACs now. You've seen this, that's another new bubble. So it's happening again, and
be careful out there, people. Be careful out there. Well, listen, Barry, thanks so much. As people know, the Fun with Annuities YouTube and podcast. You can watch the video of Barry and I on my Fun with Annuities YouTube channel, and obviously you can, for all you podcast listeners, drivers, and people running on treadmills making me look bad. I really appreciate you. As you know, our saying here is living the reality, not the dream. That's the Fun with Annuities saying, is living the reality. And reality is contractual guarantees. In my world, I mean, it is what it is. But with that being said, I really, really appreciate you being here. And I'll see everyone on the next Fun with Annuities podcast. Thanks for listening to Fun with Annuities. Please hit the subscribe button and make sure to go to my site at theannuityman.com, where you can run your own SPIA, DIA, and QLAC quotes and see a live feed of the best MYGA fixed rates in the country, and even get indexed and income rider quotes as well. You can also sign up for my 6 Annuity Owner's Manual books, and I'll ship them for free and under no obligation. I also encourage you to schedule a one-on-one call with me, Stan the Annuity Man, so we can have a full discussion of your specific situation. It will be the best brutally factual and truthful advice you will ever get, and that's one guarantee you should definitely take advantage of. So join me next time for the #1 annuity podcast on the planet, Fun with Annuities.